Ever found yourself wondering, how on earth did they pull that off while tucking into your popcorn at the big screen? Movie magic has improved so much over recent years that big budget films are now seemingly able to achieve the impossible. From incredible explosions to realistic talking animals, some CGI is so impressive that we almost forget to notice it's there at all. On that note, kick back, relax, and grab the snacks, because I'm about to lift the proverbial curtain on some of cinema's most seriously WTF special effects. Number 10. Doctor Strange. This movie is jam-packed with all kinds of mind-blowing effects, from psychedelic journeys through time and space to entire cities folding in on themselves like origami. This stellar visual effect during what was known as the mirror sequence was inspired by similar reality bending in the movie Inception, and involved the filtering of digital models of Manhattan through various kaleidoscopic and mirrored lenses. Video effects studio Industrial Light and Magic was then tasked with building a complete digital 3D model of New York City, which could be deformed, destroyed, and fractalized. As a result, the entire digitally rendered skyline was warped in some truly unbelievable ways like this, while additional components like the actors themselves would be later overlaid with the help of green screens. Another brain-boggling effect, the portals often conjured by the superhero sorcerer himself, otherwise known by creators at Rise Video Effects Studio as the sling ring method, was achieved by using an on-set LED lit ring vital to lighting the characters correctly along with a variety of green screens. Similarly, the opening scene where the zealots restrain and behead the librarian with mystical fire whips used practical LED light cables on set, and then finalized the shot with hours of painstaking work using a 3D rendering software aptly named Houdini, which added photorealistic smoke, sparks, and embers. Number 9. Avengers Endgame. Marvel's all-you-can-eat buffet of all your favorite superheroes seriously upped the ante when it comes to video effects, and one of its greatest visual achievements was undoubtedly the creation of the 8-foot Titan warlord Thanos, played by Josh Brolin. Sticking with already refined full-body motion capture techniques, including detailed scans of Brolin's expressions and an on-set head-mounted Medusa camera rig recording his facial performance in real time, Digital Domain and Weta Studios wanted to push the character even further for the final movie. To do this, individual artists worked on a rudimentary 3D model of Thanos' head and used ZBrush software to add intricate contours, wrinkles, and further imperfections, even including stubble, which would make him as believable as humanly possible for a genocidal extraterrestrial. This even involved in-depth research into the workings of the human eye, like simulated wetness and surrounding lid tissue, so that Thanos' own expressions could successfully communicate a complete range of nuanced human emotions. While much of what you see on screen is primarily CGI, another interesting little tidbit is that big scenes like the final showdown were actually filmed in a relatively small indoor set, ominously named The Volume, which was dressed in green screen and minimal scenery to allow actors to interact in what would become an essentially virtual world. Number 8. Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Stepping out of the MCU for a moment, let's look at the time Industrial Light and Magic Studios were able to digitally resurrect the late Peter Cushing, who died in 1994, to reprise his role as Grand Moff Tarkin in the 2016 Star Wars prequel Rogue One. It might sound creepy and kinda unethical, but it's actually an astonishing feat as far as creating digital humans go. The creation of Cushing's on-screen doppelganger began with intense studies of every second of legitimate Tarkin footage from the original trilogy, alongside a valuable life cast of Cushing's face made for the 1984 film Top Secret. Lucasfilm then cast Guy Henry to play the physical role on set, and hooked him up to a head-mounted camera system similar to the one used on Josh Brolin for Thanos, which would match his facial performance to a now digitally built model of Cushing. The individual nuances of Henry's performance when compared with the original Tarkin portrayal understandably didn't always match up entirely, so careful frame-by-frame tweaks and performance blending was often required, taking a total of 18 months to complete. Most importantly though, this astonishing feat pulled off mostly by video effects didn't cause casual moviegoers to think twice while at the big screen. Number 7. Deadpool. Audiences went wild for the cinematic debut of everyone's favorite R-rated anti-hero Deadpool in 2016, and throughout the movie we see tons of crazy visual effects, starting right from the iconic title sequence. Setting the tone for the ridiculousness to follow, this scene doubles down on the unbelievable as we witness a high-speed freeway crash staged through a slow-motion snapshot. The video effects team at Blur Studio spent a great deal of time ensuring that the scene looked truly plausible considering so much action is happening at once. And after initial plans to stage it using stunt performers and an actual highway were scrapped due to the vast amount of planning required, it was up to CGI artists to execute the vision. Smaller interior scenes were still filmed using live-action performance, stunt doubles, and good old green screen, but the suspended crash itself was carefully mapped out during the pre-visualization stage by creating what's known as a wireframe image of the key elements. Acting as a visual blueprint for the finished product, this detailed wireframe represents all the connecting elements of the scene or polygon and offers a handy view of its physics. With this accurate roadmap, pardon the pun, approved, video effects artists were then able to digitally render elements like the city, mid-air vehicle, the bikers, and even Deadpool himself before layering these using compositing methods to flesh out the scene. Number 6. Isle of Dogs. Most digital trickery so far is incredibly ambitious in its approach to special effects, but Wes Anderson's 2018 smash hit Isle of Dogs proves that video effects can be a useful tool for even the most subtle needs. As the longest stop-motion film ever made, much of what we see on screen in this movie was created using traditional practical methods like some 240 handcrafted sets or even creepily lifelike character puppets. But some roadblocks in production were overcome by crafty video effects work. While both Megasky City and Trash Island were pre-built miniature sets, any natural elements like explosions created using cotton wool, a wireframe, and a lot of patience required a clever blending of practical filmmaking with video effects movie magic. The entire movie was shot without any backdrops, meaning that its atmospheric skies could be designed and digitally added or composited using a technique called checkerboarding, which basically involved slotting green screens behind individual sets. Trying to stay as practical as possible, water elements like the whirlpools surrounding Trash Island were replicated by hours of intense real-life study, followed by a careful cocktail of hair gel, cling film, and sculpted rubber, which could then be finished off using digital animation software. Number 5. The Shallows. Movie magic has come a long way since 3 $15,000 animatronic puppets were physically built for the filming of Jaws back in 1975. That movie might not hold up today, but one of 2016's biggest thrillers, The Shallows, successfully created a video effects killer shark, which was enough to terrify moviegoers as it chased poor Blake Lively around the ocean for the best part of 90 minutes. 14 video effects studios collaborated on this movie, and it fell to shark specialist studio Important Looking Pirates to design and bring the monster itself to life. The CGI Great White was first 3D rendered for scale and run through a series of demos like underwater swimming and even eye movement to ensure it will behave like its real-life counterpart. With this test drive alongside complex simulations like underwater dust clouds and blood trails approved, more detailed digital sculpting like gills, mouth details, and even individual scars could be painstakingly added to complete the beast. Blake Lively's scenes were then mostly filmed using a giant blue screen tank off the Australian Gold Coast, which could be later CGI'd to resemble a full 360-degree remote cove. Although the shark didn't physically exist, stand-ins known as proxies like large drums, flotation devices, and even a motorized fin were still used in certain scenes to create live-action water impact, which could be seamlessly blended with the CG shark. Number 4. Jurassic World. The recent reboot of the Jurassic Park franchise came with its own set of challenges where special effects were concerned. Building life-size prehistoric puppets like those used in the original movies would probably pale in comparison to modern-day video effects, but much of the filming still required human-dino interaction on set. The solution in some special cases, like the raptor taming scene featuring Chris Pratt, was to combine the two elements by drawing on more traditional motion capture techniques alongside advanced digital animation from ILM. Wearing a full body tracking suit, select actors, who were even assigned to specific dinosaur roles as a result of their individual nuances, were able to mimic the raptor's movement, providing a solid reference of complex motion which could be retargeted on their CGI counterparts. Another amazing aspect of the movie was the gyrosphere, which we'd all love to travel around in. Unfortunately, it doesn't yet exist, so they had the actors sit in a rig rolling around on a trailer, which was later removed in post-production, with the spheres CGI'd around them. For the more action-intensive parts, the actors were actually strapped into a green screen simulator, which allowed for the most realistic movement. Honestly, it looks quite fun, and I want to go. More surprising practical effects were used during the emotional Apatosaurus death scene, which again required both physical interaction and a believably emotive performance. Seriously, I'm not crying. You are. Deciding not to have CGI enhance a proxy dinosaur this time around, Legacy Effects team instead sculpted a fully detailed animatronic head and neck prosthetic using latex and working mechanics, which meant that this dino went straight from the shot to the big screen. Number 3. Ready Player One. The most memorable scene from Steven Spielberg's 2018 sci-fi epic Ready Player One isn't the fantastical online domain The Oasis, but a direct homage to one of cinema's finest horror sequences, the blood elevator from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. When the characters stumble naively into the Overlook Hotel, audiences are suddenly transported back in time by what looks like a frame-by-frame replica of the original elevator scene from Kubrick's masterpiece. Industrial Light and Magic Studio had initially planned to insert the film's virtual avatars into the original 80s footage, but as certain frames were crucially missing, they quickly realized it would have to be replicated using video effects instead. This began with detailed scans of the OG sets, including every hall, room 237, and the Colorado room with that infamous typewriter, which could then be intricately rebuilt using digital rendering software to look as faithfully accurate as possible. Recreating the gory blood river, which was originally achieved using a Carrie-style dump tank, even involved tricky digital simulation work to match the original choreography of the river's movement. It might also seem like the Grady twins make a reappearance in all their spooky glory, but this effect, along with the lady in the bathtub scene, was achieved by blue screening the original human elements and creating digital doubles which could then be intercut with each other to provide all the necessary angles. Number 2. The Jungle Book. Disney's decision to produce a live-action remake of their 1967 animated classic The Jungle Book, which would rely heavily on the use of video effects for its naturalistic jungle kingdom, was a big risk, which ultimately paid off. For this movie, Moving Picture Company created an entirely CGI'd environment, which was then seamlessly blended with the live-action performance of the child actor from Mowgli, the only truly filmed element. Most of the on-set shooting took place in large blue-screen indoor environments complete with basic scenery, which allowed Mowgli to navigate the physical jungle environment, even though it didn't quite exist yet. The lazy river scene, which features Baloo, and yes, those simple bare necessities, was in fact filmed in a huge outdoor tank in LA, using the film's director as a temporary actor and even a stand-in or proxy puppet, similar to The Shallows, to resemble the larger-than-life bear himself. This combination of practical elements with video effects was the case for most animals with primary roles in the story, and encouraged Mowgli's performance to be as true to life as possible. Around 800 video effects artists dedicated to the careful recreation of real-world plants and animals then worked to replace these stand-ins with a digitally developed creature based on close, real-life anatomical studies and intricate fur and skin simulation before their voice actors fully brought them to life. Number 1. The Lion King. Following in the successful footsteps and paw prints of The Jungle Book, Disney vamped up the video effects with their live-action recreation of The Lion King, where almost every on-screen element, including Pride Rock itself, is created with pure movie magic. Hoping to take a more documentary-style approach to filming, Moving Picture Company first traveled to Kenya for 2 weeks to carefully study even the smallest ecosystem before mapping out dozens of square miles of Kenyan landscape using digital rendering software. Newly developed Technicolor virtual production technology combined pre-existing game engines, then allowed MPC to program their own sort of video game focused specifically around roaming the African landscape. This concept was then furthered by using innovative VR headsets, which would allow filmmakers to enter their own digitally created world and walk around as if on set, with the unique ability to tweak small details like specific tree placement or the positioning of the sun in real time. While The Jungle Book featured Mowgli and required human-animal interaction, This movie had no live action elements to anchor production, so any motion capture or practical techniques were not needed. Instead, NPC was able to populate their freshly digitally rendered version of the Pride Lands with a whole host of photorealistic CGI animals by building on muscle, skin, and fur simulations to ensure that these realistic animals resembled the beloved original characters. Which of these video effects movie scenes amazed you the most? And did any manage to slip by you at the big screen? Maybe you'd like to know how other complex movie scenes were created. If so, let me know in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.